Welcome to Product Mastery Now. This is where we simplify the 7 knowledge areas for product mastery. Now, these knowledge areas are based on research that PDMA, the Product Development and Management Association, has done since 1976. Their own research they've collected from researchers as well as those best practices that practitioners are putting into place. And we're doing something special on the podcast. I'm going to be going through the 7 knowledge areas, actually in a 9-part series. Last week, if you listen, we introduced this body of knowledge and what it really means to product managers and how it has been helping product managers get more grounded and move to those next level, prepare for the next level of your career, move to those next level of the next level of responsibility. So product VPs find this very helpful, and product managers that are growing in their careers find this body of knowledge really helpful. And we're doing this 9-part series to work through aspects of these 7 knowledge areas. We did the introduction last week. This time is the first knowledge area. It's called product innovation management. And I'm going to be presenting information as I go in visual format as well. And you'll find that information on YouTube. So if you're just listening, you'll certainly find value in the information. But if you want to see the things I'm talking about as well, go to our YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and search for Product Mastery Now, and you'll find the YouTube channel. And we are on episode 2 at the moment of the body of knowledge. So let's dive into this a bit further and talk about the body of knowledge. I put this together in a training system that I've developed called the Rapid Product Mastery Experience, the RPM experience. And this is for individuals and for groups. If you want to find out more information about this body of knowledge and explore it deeply, simply go to my website, productmasterynow.com, and you'll find information there. Okay. This body of knowledge, product innovation management, the first knowledge area, we're going to talk about some of the aspects of that. We certainly won't get through all of them, but the first topic I want to talk through is what is product innovation, right? As product managers, we are innovating, we're creating new products. And PDMA has a definition. They say product innovation is defined as the creation and subsequent introduction of a good or service. So a good, something physical we can touch, a service we receive, that is either new or an improved version of a previous goods or service. And it's important to recognize sometimes when we think of innovation, we only think about doing something new, like the world has never seen before, like the very first microwave oven or the first mobile phone, the cell phone. But new can mean new to the organization. Maybe we're moving into a new area that already exists, but it is new to us as an organization. Or simply, we're improving products. We're adding new capabilities, new features to what we do now. And all that makes it new. But there's an important element to recognize here, and that's that as we are doing this, we're creating value, right? Either through a completely new product or more often through an enhanced version of the product. And that's a key thing, that we are creating value. And who judges that value? Ultimately, it's judged by the customer that we're creating value for. And the scope of product innovation throughout a product project implies some level of complexity, and it's influenced by a wide range of factors. And I just want to briefly introduce how we can categorize those factors. They fall into 4 areas: those that are controllable, things that we have influence over; those that are uncontrollable, that we must respond to; internal factors; and external factors. For the controllable factors, culture, this is an element of success for the work that we do. Strategy is important. Capability overall. The organizational structure itself is a factor, as well as finances. Those are things that we have control over, maybe not individually completely as project managers, but that we can influence and control. And then there's those uncontrollable factors. These things are outside of the boundary of what we can influence, such as competitors, the government policies we have to respond to, and other regulations, and the international environment. If you've ever done a PESTEL or pest analysis, you understand what I'm talking about, those external factors that we have to align with and respond to. And also, innovation involves a cross-section of players, and we can categorize those by internal and external. First, the internal players. If we're in a public organization, we would have a board of directors that would be part of the picture. General management, certainly the cross functions we work with, such as marketing, production, that might be called engineering, development, depending on the organization, our finance group, and then purchasing for supply chain management type issues. The external players that are included could be consultants that we work with, the suppliers, of course, regulators, other external agents, other external trade groups, as well as importantly, the customers that we're serving and the users that we're creating products for. It is useful to also recognize that there's a reason why this product work is hard because we don't always launch successful products. And there's various sources that remind us of this, that successful product innovation is challenging because it doesn't just happen by accident, and unfortunately, failures occur. For example, for consumer products, some sources put the number at 70 to 90% fail to meet the revenue expectations. And the failure rates vary by others. There's other aspects, areas in the body of knowledge. We talk about what failure rates are based on pretty credible research, but some sources put this as the number of consumer products failing to meet revenue expectations. And moreover, this means that organizations are wasting financial and human resources at a tremendous rate. And your competency with these concepts that are talked about in the body of knowledge helps to equip you to turn this around, to be more successful creating products that your customers will love and that generate revenue for you. And that's why it's important to know this body of knowledge. And just think for a moment of products that have failed, launches that you have seen fail. Here's a few examples I'm just showing on the slide here. New Coke, certainly an infamous one, maybe the most infamous marketing failure of all time. The Apple Newton amazing device that wasn't ever really brought to the market. BlackBerry, man, I love that keyboard on the BlackBerry phone. Wasn't that great? And BlackBerry as a company just got overran by iPhone when it came out, and they lost their way. They still exist doing services, but we missed the BlackBerry phones. And other examples, right? They missed some aspect of product innovation that really makes the difference between failure and success. And understanding the body of knowledge helps us be aware of what are those success factors and the failures to avoid. What about your organization? Or maybe think of your competitors, right? What's a product maybe your organization that they've launched that has failed to meet revenue expectations, or maybe the competitor? We might not feel so bad about the competitor. Next topic I want to bring up is what are those factors that do influence product innovation success? And I want you to be aware of success factors at three levels. We're going to look at the project level, the people and environment, and also the strategy. So to break these out at the project level, we want to develop unique, superior products, and not just these Me Too products, not just copy from our competitor what they're doing, because we don't know if they actually got it right. Are they actually creating as much value as they could for customers? We need to have a clear focus on a target market segment, right? Who is the person that has the problem that we are solving? And we want to have our pre-development homework done to go through that front end of innovation and understand what we are creating before we get to actually do the creating part, to make sure we have validated that our solution to the customer's problem actually is creating value for that customer. And in the process, we need to develop a clear, concise, and stable definition of what that product is going to be, and adequately plan and resource the launch of that product. We've done all this hard work. We get to the launch part. We have to make sure that is appropriate as well to meet that target market that we have identified. And all along the way, we are executing with speed, but ideally not at the expense of quality of that execution. And this does create some natural tension, right, with the product work, because there's increasing demands for driving down that time to market and getting products out faster. And that does create some natural tension between speed and quality. Now, success factors around people and the environment, these can include organizing the project teams to fit constraints and complexity of the project, creating the proper climate and culture to support innovation and remove innovation barriers. All organizations appear to have some innovation barriers, sometimes more than we want for sure, and to be aware of that. And also, we need top management support, and we have to have that relationship with top management and enlist their support to provide some really protection of resources for the project and other maneuvering that they can help us with. And success factors for strategy. Having a product innovation and technology strategy that is aligned with organization strategy. This is an entire knowledge area of itself in the body of knowledge, is how we determine organizational strategy, and we make sure the work that we do as product people is aligned, supporting those strategic objectives of the organization. And then leveraging core competencies of the organization itself, targeting attractive markets to go after, markets that we can serve well, and using portfolio management because we're not doing projects in a vacuum, right? We're doing projects in the organization while other projects are taking place at the same time. We need to be aware strategically of how those are organized and what they mean to the organization and understand portfolio management aspects. And then using necessary resources for each project, which is the reason why we want top management help to, in a sense, protect those resources for the project also. So let's examine another perspective on success factors. The PDMA comparative, it's called the PDMA Comparative Performance Assessment Study. It's identified factors that are consistent among high product innovation performers organized into 7 areas. And the study is conducted every few years. This is really helpful research that PDMA does. The most recent study, the title was Product Development Global Best Practices Survey. A little bit of a mouthful, but I'm going to review the key factors here. And as I do, I want you to identify where your organization has opportunities to improve. And try to keep track of those as I go through it, because I'll ask you a little bit later to, we can apply that and you'll get some more value out of this. So try to keep track of that as we go through. So what are these factors? First, we have innovation culture. In the best companies are characterized by several axioms, several kind of laws in place almost. First is that failure itself is understood, that failure is a part of doing something new. It's a part of product management because we're doing something new and having to learn from that. That managers are establishing the objectives. So in these best performing companies, that's been a clear practice. Also, that innovation is considered in the recruitment of new employees. External communication is used. Innovation and risk-taking are valued. And constructive conflict is encouraged. That's a characteristic of high-performing teams as well. And the internal communication is also effective. So from a cultural aspect, and I just hit on all those, right? There's more details in the body of knowledge for developing each one of these, but those are key characteristics that are seen in the highest performing innovative companies, right? They do have an innovation culture they focus on. The next category is called a product strategy. And in the best companies, we see that they use a well-defined new product strategy that directs all new product innovation activities. They also tend to be first to market or a fast follower. And I won't go into details of those, but first to market, they're developing new products that their customers haven't seen before, or the fast follower, they're seeing what works in the marketplace and they're improving on what is already there and releasing those products to customers. They're also more likely to focus on sustainability practices, and they're more likely to apply intellectual property considerations and be generating intellectual property. And they apply a global business model, right? Operating in multiple countries and probably having an integrated supply chain across more than one country. Okay, next up, the best companies also use portfolio management tools to select projects and ensure an ongoing balance across those projects. And they balance by considering projects that are in some way categorized in relationship to their strategic objectives. And that might be radical versus incremental projects, kind of like the word sound, radical, new to the organization, incremental, we're making existing products better, perhaps low versus high risk, or maybe new versus existing markets. There's lots of ways that we can put a portfolio together. And this is an entire area in the body of knowledge as well, is this notion of portfolio management. So next up, we have our product process. And the best companies here, well, they're going to use a formal cross-functional process, and that's going to be communicated well. They're also continuously redesigning that process to do improvements, and they're using specialized team structures to drive product innovation. And it's interesting when, another area of the body of knowledge is culture and teams. And when I'm training organizations, primarily groups of product managers in the companies, but sometimes entire product teams, sometimes senior leaders, this is an aspect that comes out as often being new, like, oh, we could think about what would be the proper team structure based on the characteristics of the project, often with risk and timeline being two of the key characteristics there. but we want to be using the right team structure for the right sort of project. And then also adopting flexibility to fit the product project. So it's not a one size process for everything, but we're grounded in a standard process model. And also having senior managers who understand and support the product process. The next element here is that the best companies approach the front end of innovation by spending considerably more effort to understand customer needs. This is a key one for me. It's been true throughout my career is putting in the effort to do the market research, the customer research to understand what the customer needs. Using formal processes for idea assessment, and this is recognizing the importance of making the right decisions at this very early stage. That's what the front end innovation is about, is to put us on the right path for what we develop. They tend to use open innovation, the best performing companies, to gather and develop new ideas. So they're working external to the organization. They're not just looking for ideas or knowledge in the organization. And they also use social media to gather customer information and opinions as well. The sixth area is called development tools. So the best companies here, they're using market research tools to really understand the customer, and they are using them more than we see other companies use them. They're also using engineering design tools more frequently, and they place more emphasis on project planning tools. They're more engaged with project management practices that help them. And the final area found among the best companies is called measures and metrics, at least in the research. And this involves using formal metrics for measuring and reporting on new product performance. And they also use metrics for both outputs and processes. For outputs, looking at things like profits from new products, and for processes, perhaps looking at milestones for being on time throughout the process or the time to market. And obviously, these metrics have to be tailored for the organization. There's some general ones, certainly. But the research here is that the better organizations, the better companies of innovation of products, they're using measures and metrics. And finally, they use those also as a basis for their learning and continuous improvement. How do we do a better job in our next cycle of improving our product or our next innovation effort, the front end of innovation? And as an example, if you do any home projects, you're probably familiar with Gorilla Glue, or the official name of the company is the Gorilla Glue Company. And they've transformed their company by implementing the innovation processes and practices, changing their culture in a rather short amount of time and developing new capabilities, delivering significant growth for that organization. And they did this by working on those 7 areas that I just went through, that these are the practices that make companies stand out. And in Gorilla's case, they applied for the Outstanding Corporate Innovator Award. That's an award given by PDMA each year to the best organization in terms of innovation. And they won the award one year because they worked on each of these elements to indeed be better innovators and really transform their organization for innovation. Now, I asked you to kind of keep track as I went through those 7 areas. I know that was a lot to listen to, and if you're on the YouTube channel, it might be a little bit easier to follow along. But we talked about innovation culture, product strategy, portfolio management, product process, the front end of innovation, using the best and right development tools, and then measures and metrics. And I'm curious, right, for your reflections on that, if you were to think about where could your organization improve now, where could you influence some change and improvement, and also consider who you would discuss that with, right, with the team you work with your manager, with other senior leaders. What are the areas that you could work on? And again, the body of knowledge dives into those more deeply and what actions that we can take. Now, another topic I want to tee up is what does a project manager do? This is also part of the product innovation management knowledge area. And the responsibilities of product managers do vary by organization, but there are some general responsibilities like understanding the customer experience, developing a vision, prioritizing processes and activities, develop product pricing and positioning strategies, negotiating with stakeholders, build and follow a roadmap, arrange product testing for groups, drive the product launch, participate in developing the promotion plan, and build and maintain product awareness on all levels among the product teams. Now, that's a pretty big list. And in the body of knowledge, actually, several models are conveyed for how we think about what a product manager should do and their responsibilities. But it is certainly this notion of understanding what the customer needs. What are their unmet needs? What's the problem they're trying to solve? What can we do then, working with our development teams to create solutions for them and be part of that effort? So, successful product managers really need several skills. And these are discovering customers and their needs, market knowledge to know where the market is and where it's going, certainly innovation awareness, strategic thinking, technical knowledge, expert communication skills, relationship management, user behavior and understanding, and empathy. And personally, I regard this aspect of empathy, walking in someone's shoes, understanding their problem, as product manager superpower. Also, another skill is the ability to explain business and technical requirements to all members of a team, and the ability to apply metrics and measure the success of a product. Product manager is responsible for market success ultimately, right? Or that's why we're developing our products to add value to customers and have success in the marketplace. And we develop the product strategy and engage in product work through all stages of that work, ideas to the launch and ultimately to the product's retirement. And a product manager works across the functions of the organization, including development, engineering, production, whatever we call that group, marketing, certainly, sales, and finance, and other functions as well, to coordinate resources and transfer to them the product vision. What is it we're trying to build and why is that important? And then build the product roadmap to provide guidance for what we're doing. And when we put all this work together, some of the key metrics for tracking product management performance are directly related to product performance, including monetization, user engagement, and the level of user satisfaction. And there are project managers that tend to focus on specific aspects of this, right? Like growth. How do we improve monetization and user engagement and satisfaction? Okay, I want to move on to another topic in the product innovation management knowledge area. So far, we've talked about some factors involved in the success of a product. We've talked about some of the responsibilities of a product manager. Well, let's talk about a few of the factors involved in a product manager's success as well. And much of how a product manager succeeds can be summarized in four key strategies. That's create a vision, develop a plan to execute that vision, guide the development of the products, and then ultimately commercialize, launch the product, make it available to customers. So creating a vision, let's talk about this one first. Think about taking a road trip. I love road trips, love taking them with my family. The vision for the road trip is both the destination, where we're going, and also what we're going to see along the way, right? Enjoying that journey. And for product managers, vision defines the final product and it conveys to others the direction for achieving it. And vision begins with ideation when a team discusses the new product, and it can be articulated during a brainstorming session or maybe in a backlog of ideas for it. And a well-specified product vision answers the following questions. It's going to tell us who the product is for, right? What is the problem that they have, what they're trying to solve? We might think of it as their persona, but we should add to that certainly dimensions of their unmet needs and the problem they're trying to solve. Which problems will the product solve? And how can we measure the success of the product? And with the product vision, we'll also need a strategy for delivering that vision. And that was one of the topics earlier about product strategy, and it can be thought of as three elements, right? It starts with the market and the customer research to understand the customer's problem and their needs. And this is the foundation for the value proposition, concisely sharing who the product creates value for and how that value is delivered. And the product strategy must also balance the business needs aligned to the businesses or the organization's strategic objectives. So there's a lot going on there with how a vision supports the strategy as well as the organization strategy, the product strategy. Finally, a product strategy is often documented as a roadmap, with one form showing what to work on now, what we're doing right? This, maybe the sprint, what we're doing now, what we're going to do next, what's lined up, and what could be later. And a good roadmap serves as a way of providing this visual guide, right, for the product team while also stimulating collaboration. We should not think of a roadmap as a firm plan, but really as a collaboration tool that helps keep everyone on the same page about what we're doing and where we're headed. New product innovation typically involves a number of phases. And if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm just showing a simple model here of, we get the idea originally, then we're going to do some evaluation of that idea. We're going to form that into a concept. We'll do some prototyping work to understand that and test that with customers. Then we're going to develop that and have a pre-launch activity as we're getting ready, get it into the market, and then a post-launch activity. And there's other variations on this, and we might add additional explicit phases like, idea screening, market strategy development, and others. But the objective is that we're going to move in a planned manner from idea to commercialized product, right? We actually have a plan to execute the vision of the product itself. And then number 3 is the guide the development of the products. And the plan is executed, and the product manager's responsibility is to develop the products, right? And we're guiding that to get that done. And we want to keep 3 things in mind as the plan is managed. Plans change when the customer hits something different in their world, right? So our plans encounter the real world, and plans can change then, for sure. Learning continues throughout each of the phases. When we're doing this work, we can't just begin with an understanding in the very beginning of the project, what we think we're going to end up with the vision, and not to expect that not to change. There will be changes that take place because we are learning throughout the process here as we're refining this idea. And the project should be killed off. This is kind of a portfolio management idea too. The project should be killed off if at any time we learn that the product is not feasible or viable. There's been many good concepts created that somewhere along the line we figure out the customer just doesn't care about this problem. It's not big enough of a problem for the customer to actually engage with our solution. Or there's other things that happen in the organization that causes the product project to have to be discontinued. And when we run into knowledge that we're not on the right path, we need to back up and change, or just kill off the project and put our resources where they're better deserved, where we could do better good with each other, more good with each other. Okay, and then we move on to commercializing the product. And the final strategy here is introducing the product to its customers. We call that commercializing the product or launching the product. And while this is part of the plan I just discussed, it deserves some additional focus because here marketing and launch plans are finalized. The sales team is trained. We prepare the sales team to be able to support the product, deliver the product, not support it like warranty work, but be able to understand how to position it with customers so they'll want to buy it. Channel partners and distributors are brought into the loop, and if used, manufacturing gets ramped up as well to make sure that the product is available when those sales are being made. And the product manager delivers on creating an operating plan which aims to track the growth of the product in the marketplace and paying attention to key metrics that make sense for the organization, such as revenue, ROI, customer engagement, and other metrics as well. And once the product is in the market, the product manager needs to continue to monitor and manage its success, looking at sales, level of customer satisfaction, potential issues that come up with the product, solutions to those, customer feedback. And in some organizations, these responsibilities are transitioned to another role, such as a product marketing manager. In the big scheme of things, I'm a fan of that. I think we need to have clear differentiation between what happens after a product launches and supporting that in the marketplace. Product managers need to stay focused on understanding the changing needs of customers and trends that are impacting that and other factors so that we can continue doing our job of understanding what customers' unmet needs exist and how we can add value to their life if we were indeed to meet those needs. 4 big areas there, right? The big picture for product management falls into creating a vision, developing a plan to execute on that vision, guiding the development of the products, and then commercializing, getting the product launched to our customers, to the marketplace. Okay, That was a lot to pack in, and this is as I said, the second episode in what's going to be a nine-part series exploring the body of knowledge. And the topics that we got through include what is product innovation, what factors influence product innovation success, what does a product manager do, and the key strategies for a project manager success. There is a lot of other topics still in this knowledge area that we didn't get to. I'm listing them here on YouTube as well. There's additional information about the role of the product manager. There's a product life cycle, which includes the introduction of the product, seeing its growth in the marketplace, maturity, decline, and finally retiring from the marketplace. Managing the product life cycle itself, how new products cross the chasm after they are introduced, developing a go-to-market plan, a strategy, using product roadmaps and other useful roadmaps, what product managers need to know about project management, how we can manage risk during a product project, and also additional metrics and key performance indicators. That's a lot of topics. And they're all covered in PDMA's body of knowledge. There is a book about that I co-authored. That's why we're talking about it right now. And also, it is the foundation of what we do on this podcast. We address those 7 knowledge areas. Now I'm just breaking out formally in the series. But if you want detailed training on this is something I've been doing for a number of years. It's helping individuals and helping companies understand all those elements of the body of knowledge for product managers to help us be good at creating new products that create value for our customers and drive success for the organization. And that training is available for individuals and for groups and companies to go through. To find out more details on that, simply go to our website for the podcast. That's productmasterynow.com. And specifically on training that I call the Rapid Product Mastery Experience, which covers in detail this body of knowledge, go to rapidproductmasterynow.com/RPM. So I'm hoping you find the series helpful. Reach out to me over email from the website if you wish, if you have any comments, or connect with me on LinkedIn. We'll move on to next week, the strategy area for the body of knowledge. And that really is the foundation of the work that we do. This first area provided a good introduction about some of the big concepts we should be aware of, but strategy is what drives what we do in product work, fundamentally aligning our work as developing new products or making our products better to the strategic objectives of the organization. So we'll talk through some key aspects of that. Thanks again for joining the series. And as always, keep innovating,